Bartek's mom, as if in those posts, says that she tried to be a good mother, that she tried to be a supportive mother, but that the victim is Bartek Bartosz, that Maja won't hurt anyone anymore. Hello, welcome to another Criminality Patrol episode. Well, this is a story that shook not only Maja, but practically all of Poland. People are still talking about this case, the unbelievable death of a 16-year-old girl. I'm talking about this case, and we'll keep talking about it for a long time, if only because it seems to me we only know part of the truth. Maybe after some time, during the interrogations, we'll find out more. Maybe we'll find out more, but it looks like a lot of these things that happened also happened after Maja's death. Well, a lot of these things remain a mystery. Maja lived in Maja. She was a 16-year-old girl. She lived there because some time ago, about 2 years ago, she moved to Olsztyn. That day, it was April 23rd of this year. She decided that she would meet with her friend Bartosz, who was just a year older, a 17-year-old. Well, there were no problems, because she had practically known Bartek her whole life. Since elementary school, she told her family at home that she was going to meet with him. She probably also sensed that something might go wrong at this meeting, because she said that if she argued with Bartek, she would come back in 5 minutes. If she didn't argue with him, she would come back in half an hour. Exactly, you can see it on the surveillance camera recording. It's 7:43 post-meridium when she leaves. She leaves the house and walks toward Bartek's property. Bartek and his family lived nearby. It's just a few hundred meters away. You can see that she's walking toward the buildings belonging to Bartek's family. Exactly 4 minutes later, it's 7:47 post-meridium. She's still texting. First, she tries to call, and then she sends a text message to her friend. Basically, that text message consisted of just one word: quickly. Well, of course, for her friend, it meant she should call quickly, but she was taking a bath, so she didn't see the text message. She didn't see the phone. She didn't call back until after 8 post-meridium, and by then, Maja wasn't answering anymore. Why did Maja, when she was already on her way there, practically expect some kind of danger? Because she wrote quickly, probably because some kind of danger had already appeared. We don't know that at this moment. This danger appears within those 6 minutes from 7:47 post-meridium to around 7:53 post-meridium. What did she notice then? Who was with her? Well, let's see. The thing is, Maja didn't come back that evening, not even after half an hour. She didn't come back at all. The family starts looking for her. Her parents go and notify the police. And this is where I would say some awkwardness starts between the police and the family, the parents. The parents are upset that the police don't start searching right away, that they're treating the situation a bit lightly. However, it seemed that yes, in the past, Maja had incidents where she ran away from home. In total, there were 5 of these runaways. It also seems that these weren't really full runaways, because each time she took her cell phone and stayed in contact with her mother, it looked more like a kind of protest, a bit like trying to spite her parents. It was more like getting back at them than an actual runaway. That's how her parents interpreted it, but it's possible the police saw it a bit differently. Even though it was years earlier, she had run away 5 times. So probably this time she just argued with her mom, and that's why she ran away. And the fact is, because you have to admit it, because it's obvious that the police didn't start searching for her right away. But the family is searching. They start following Maja's trail and actually even secure the surveillance footage. You can see there that she's walking toward the buildings. Bartosz, but she's heading toward a carpentry workshop belonging to his family, not the house. And that's a difference because the house and the carpentry workshop are on two different sides. So if she were heading toward the house, she'd be going in a completely different direction. But here you can see that she's simply walking toward the carpentry workshop. Well, the first thing that obviously comes to mind is that Bartek must have known something about Maja, because after all, her family went to him and her friends reached out to him. But he says he didn't know anything, that he hadn't seen her, that actually they hadn't seen each other for 2 years. That maybe something happened near the tracks because there was some kind of accident there. Well, it's kind of a strange situation. But theoretically, Bartosz might really not have seen her. His mom says the same thing, by the way, saying that they didn't see each other, that they probably didn't have any contact with each other here. Well, the thing is, they've both known each other for many, many years. They were even a couple once. But they were a couple when Maja was 13 and Bartek was 14, so they were a couple. Basically, they were still just kids. It seems they weren't exactly angels. There were all sorts of juvenile cases being handled at the family and juvenile court in Maja. These were cases about delinquency. Bartek had such cases as well. Most of these cases were actually about delinquency, but they also concerned some kind of criminal case, let's call it that. Because in this case, he has a probation officer and a restraining order from the victim. This shows it was a more serious situation. Same with Maja, she also had cases involving delinquency twice. Well, that has to be recognized in court as a kind of verdict. She received a court warning, but she was also under probation supervision. So you could see from that it was a few years back. Because these are all cases from 2021, 2022 for Maja. Those were cases when they were basically still children. Five days later, and that's already April 28th. The provincial police headquarters in Radom published this announcement. This is an announcement introducing the fact that Maja is being searched for. But there are also explanations from the police that it's not really like that they neglected the search, that the search did take place, that they are and have been working on it all the time. The fact is really, because you can see it in those materials, it wasn't until April 27th, 4 days after Maja disappeared, that a tracking dog appeared. For everyone, or at least for me, it's obvious that the dog should have been on the scene earlier. The area is small, it's basically a place where people don't go. So for the dog, there shouldn't be any problem picking up the scent. That dog only shows up on the 27th. Then there's the 28th, the 29th, and the police keep searching the whole time. You have to admit the search was on a large scale back then. A lot of people were brought in, including riot control units from the provincial police headquarters in Radom. Her family is searching, her friends and acquaintances are searching. Everyone is trying to find Maja. The fact is, her phone is connecting. It connects at 1 a.m., so that was already at 1, then again at 6 in the morning. But then the phone goes silent. It stopped connecting. It was known that Maja's phone was connecting somewhere near the train station, that's Mława Miasto, near that carpentry workshop, and also a few hundred kilometers away. Not far from that workshop, well, I would say the area there is very hard to access. A lot of bushes, basically thickets, so it's just not easy to get in there. And that's when the dog makes such a discovery. He finds Maja, or rather, unfortunately, he finds her body. They're not far from that carpentry workshop. It's just a few hundred meters away. As I told you, there are some bushes over there. It's a hard-to-reach place. The dog finds the first body. Maja, well, you can tell quite a few days have passed. During the time when the search for Bartek was ongoing, Bartek is leaving Poland. He's going to Greece. He is a student at the school. That's school complex number 1 in Maja. The school has an exchange agreement with a school in Greece. These are a kind of student internships. He is going for this internship. You can see it because the school also posted some reports from their stay. There you can see how the students from that school play volleyball and dance the Zorba during their stay. On top of that, they're also learning somewhere how to lay tiles, or more like paving stones for sidewalks. Well, you can see that these young people are spending, I would say, their time there. And a bit working and having fun. So this was happening at the time when Bartek was there. Here in Poland, the search was still ongoing. The police immediately suspect that Bartek might be connected to this case. They didn't have any evidence so far, but the police did 2 things. First, they checked the phone logins of Ima and Bartek. And it turns out that these 2 phones were logging in at the same time, in the same place. Well, clearly right here. They could have had some contact, but the direct evidence was that one of the cameras simply recorded that Bartek and Maja were together that evening. Well, obviously, everything pointed to the fact that Bartek was involved, that he knew something about Maja's disappearance. However, he's not telling the whole truth, so those things, meaning the surveillance footage and the phone records, they gave the prosecutor's office grounds to issue a wanted notice and also a European arrest warrant. As I told you, the body was in those bushes, in that thicket. The police officers who examined the scene and the prosecutor immediately realized that the murder must have happened in a completely different place. But what was terrifying was the way the body looked. Someone had simply tortured them. The autopsy itself lasted almost 5 hours. It turned out that Maja died from multiple blows that were inflicted to her head. These were blows delivered with some kind of tool, either the back of an axe or a hammer, but her skull was literally crushed. On top of that, the body was naked. Somewhere on the body, they also supposedly noticed either traces of Maja being tortured earlier. They also tried to set the body on fire, to pour some kind of corrosive substance on it. It seemed that after the murder, the killer or killers tried to get rid of the body in a rather clumsy way, trying to destroy it with a corrosive substance or by trying to set it on fire, which of course is not that easy. So it was also clear from this, because it was immediately obvious, that the person who killed Maja must have had an emotional connection to her, that there was something inside the killer for a long time, because there were so many blows, as if he was taking revenge for everything he had been carrying inside himself until now. It's a kind of negative, murderous energy that often appears in this type of killing. And a certain kind of mysterious thing appears. I think this can be explained because 9 days after Maja disappeared, after her body was found on May 1st, as you know, as I said, a lot of people took part in the search. There are tracking dogs, they search for several days, there are dozens of people, there are police officers as special units who came to the scene, friends, family, lots of people who are looking for Maja. And after 9 days on the railroad tracks, not far from the place where she was found, her cell phone is lying on the tracks. That pink smartphone she had that evening, the phone is clean. It looked like someone just planted that phone on the tracks. And at that time, Bartek was already in Greece, so he couldn't have done it. Naturally, this leads to suspicion and assumption. And that's the first suspicion in this case, that someone was helping Bartek. That maybe someone planted that phone to mislead the investigators and to steer the proceedings, the investigation, onto a false trail. Yeah, that's how it looks. It's not possible that the phone was lying there for 9 days, looking exactly like that and not any different, especially since even a tracking dog following the scent should have found it. And that's the first suspicion in this case, as I said, that needs to be clarified. Well, after the issuance of the European arrest warrant, that is, the so-called European arrest warrant, Bartek is quickly apprehended there in Greece by the police. In Greece, in the town of Katarini, it's a hotel and the school simply has accommodations there. That's where he stays. On May 5th, he is brought to the prosecutor in Thessaloniki. The prosecutor in Thessaloniki asks Bartek if he wants to return to the country, meaning, to put it simply, if he wants to submit to extradition. He said he doesn't want to. It's like this. If someone wants to submit to extradition and doesn't cause any problems, basically, they return to the country within 10 days. However, if someone says they don't want extradition, don't want to return to the country, that they want to be tried, like in this case in Greece, then the prosecutor asks for the reasons. Here, Bartek said that there are reasons, that he was threatened, that he's afraid. There were also other things that came up, which the prosecutor in such a case has to check to see if they're actually true. Then the extradition procedure gets prolonged, and sometimes, as you can see from the cases we're talking about, it can last even several years. And then from May 5th, they actually started checking whether Bartek could have a fair trial in Poland. There are also various kinds of posts appearing. These are mainly his posts, posted earlier, as well as posts from his mother. These are very emotional posts. They basically refer directly and indirectly to everything that happened. Here, Bartek's mom, in these posts, says that she tried to be a good mother, that she tried to be a supportive mother, but that Bartek is the victim. Bartosz, that Maja won't hurt anyone anymore. Well, this post in particular, I would say, made those who read it especially angry. Bartek also spoke in a similar tone, posting entries that were, I would say, quite surprising, like, for example, that not every hero wears a cape, that the monster is gone, that in fact he is the victim. As you can see from this, there were a lot of emotional things indicating that in Bartek's mind and in his mother's as well, some strange and disturbing things were happening. Well, there is quite a lot of that kind of information. Such things appeared in Greece, in the local media, after Bartek was detained, so we can assume that they came out after what Bartek said, or possibly based on some speculation. However, in those Greek media, it was written and said that Bartek simply lured the girl to the carpentry workshop, that he killed her in the workshop, that he used either a hammer or an axe, and then tried to get rid of the body, hence all the chemicals that were used. So that would seem to confirm the findings here in Poland. The fact is that this relationship, if we can even use that word since they were just kids, the relationship between Maja and Bartek was very turbulent. Back in 2022, 3 years ago, Maja showed her friends a photo where she had some bruising, probably from some kind of argument or fight. Bartek hit her. Then, theoretically, they broke up. Of course, everyone asks about the motives. Were those motives really there in a logical sense? Was it something like hope, love, disappointment towards Maja from Bartek's side. Yes, those feelings appeared. His feelings were still very strong, especially towards her, unrequited that Maja left, but they still kept in touch all the time. They didn't have contact in person, seeing each other or talking. Everything was happening online all the time. That exchange between them, all kinds of comments. That's what it looks like. It's somehow a part of the investigation's secret, but some other people got involved in it as well. Especially a certain girl. Well, I think there were a lot of different kinds of distortions. All kinds of unexplained situations, things left unsaid from all of this. Well, as Bartek himself said, he went through hell. But was that hell real? Did it originate in his head? He probably resented Maja that it all ended this way. That maybe she isn't taking his side in all of this. That, in his opinion, she kind of betrayed him. I think those are the only reasons for everything that happened. A young guy perceives reality completely differently. The fact is that in some way he killed Maja. That what he did with the body afterward indicates that the emotional charge, the negative one, was enormous. It's not out of the question that the moment he saw her after 2 years, he immediately flew into a rage and attacked. Maja still managed to run away and hide somewhere at that time. That's why she called her friend. On May 28th in Thessaloniki, a decision is made that Bartek will return to Poland, that he will be extradited from Greece. On the 28th, Bartek remains in touch with his mother. It looks like he wanted to say goodbye to her, intending to commit suicide. And indeed, during the night of May 28th to 29th, he tried to hang himself with a bedsheet. He was in his cell at the time. It's called the transit department. It's a transitional period in which a detainee or arrested person is held. They realized it in time. The guards realized in time. They managed to cut him off. It looks like that's how his mother informed them that he would try to kill himself. That might have saved his life. It also seems that it wasn't just a demonstration, that it wasn't a suicide attempt just for show, because he ended up in the intensive medical care unit. His condition was serious. He said from the beginning that he wanted to be in Greece, that he wants to be tried in Greece. He doesn't want to return to Poland, that he's afraid of all the people here who threatened him. There were also various kinds of lies. That already 2 people in Poland from his family circle have been detained. That's obviously not true. But in this case, there are a lot of such ambiguities and lies. In recent days, his condition has improved. He was transferred from the intensive care unit to a regular ward. There he is being guarded by the police. And it looks like he'll probably return to Poland any day now. Of course, there's still the matter I mentioned earlier that needs to be clarified. So, the phone that was later found lying on the tracks. But it also seems to me, from a technical point of view, throwing Maja's body into those bushes, throwing it in the container she was in that plastic bin or trash container. It seems to me, for a single person, very difficult. Bartek, well, I would say he has a rather slim build. Would he be able to throw a body into a container like that? Personally, I would go in the direction that this needs to be checked. And one more thing, that's what I think, if you remember. The dog was on site on the 27th, 28th, and 29th. Then on May 1st, he found Maja's body. So it's a bit surprising. If the body was in that place the whole time, why didn't he find it earlier? After all, that clue must have been very strong. So it surprises me a bit that the dog didn't sniff out the body lying in the bushes. That's certainly possible. However, it's also possible that the body was moved to that place later, at the time when Bartosz had a severe allergy, and in Greece. and someone else or other people or another person brought the body and threw it into the bushes? Well, that's also, I would say, a question without an answer for today. Well, it's hard not to find a similarity in this case to that movie Coming of Age on Netflix. The situation is almost identical to the case of Maja Bartek. There too, a classmate kills a female classmate. There too, the surveillance cameras practically record both of them. And practically the case is clear right away. That's how it is in this case too. Many people see this analogy exactly to this movie. Presumably, I think soon, Bartosz will appear in the country. Here this story will be brought up again, or rather continued, because it hasn't ended. Everything indicates that Bartek will be charged. It will be a charge of murder with particular cruelty, which had to be included even at this preliminary stage. When it was announced before the warrant, but formally this charge will still be presented to him here. He faces a sentence of 30 years in prison, Nesesh. Exactly. He's only 17, so he can't get a life sentence. We'll see what he says when he explains the case. There will certainly be a lot more emotions in this case. Of course, her funeral has already taken place. There were quite a few people, friends, colleagues, family. Her parents read out a message, a personal letter in which they spoke about what a loss Maja is for them. That's obvious in this situation. Probably also, I think, on the side of all this, if it weren't for the fact that certain things are explained over the internet, that there isn't that direct contact, that you don't look someone in the eyes, maybe speaking to them, of course, maybe this situation would have turned out differently. That's all for today's episode. Of course, subscribe to our channel, and as always, take care.